So this is the story of how I was playing terribly, I was losing a match, and then I broke the strings in my last racket. I had to borrow my opponent's racket, which as far as I was concerned, felt like I was hitting the ball with a 2x4. So I had to completely change up my strategy, and amazingly, that allowed me to come back and win the match. So I'm left-handed, and if you have ever played a lefty, we like to do two things. First is when let's assume you're right-handed, you're hitting your forehand, your sword, stronger shot, cross court at my shield, weaker shot. We're going to look for an opportunity to change the direction and get it to your backhand and aim for like a pretty big target, right? We're not trying to hit a winner. We're just trying to change the dynamic of the rally and get it going cross court that way. I was missing all of these. I was missing them in the net. I was missing them long. I was missing them wide. They're going everywhere except for in. And when I did get my strength at my opponent's backhand, what we like to do is pull you further and further off the court until we have a window to take this ball down the line. Same deal. This thing was going everywhere except for in. So I'm down a break, but it was one of those matches where it felt like it was more than a break, right? Like this thing was not close. And then to make matters worse, I popped the string in my last racket. And so I had to borrow my opponent's racket, and he was playing with one of those old Federer, like Wilson Pro Staffs, the one with a really small racket head. And it's just, for me, it was like a super stiff racket. It felt terrible, right? So I'm like, I can't hit any of my shots anymore. So this probably isn't going to go too good. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to give it the old college try. So I'm going to start using a play, exclusively using a play called home base. And here's how it works. Imagine you got an imaginary line coming out of you straight into the court. So the rule of home base is if your opponent hits a shot that crosses that line, you have to send it back where it came from. You have to send it back cross court. There's no alternative. You are not allowed to go down the line, just back cross court. However, if your opponent hits a shot that does not cross the line, well, now you are allowed to change direction if you want. You don't have to. You could send this ball back cross court, and that's fine. Or you could hit it into the open court here. So I started doing this when my opponent, he's hitting a stronger shot at my back, and I'm still just like, whatever, I'm just going back cross court. And I would get the occasional ball here in the middle of the court. That's obviously on my forehand, and then I would redirect it over there. And what was crazy is suddenly I cut out all these mistakes I was making. When the ball would cross the imaginary line and I tried to go down the line, that was earlier with my racket. I was making a ton of errors. Without getting into the details, this play is based on something called directionals from Paul Wardlaw. And basically, when the ball crosses your body, it's harder and is moving away from you. It's harder to control these versus balls that are coming into you when you hit them. Won't get into the details of why that is. But anyway, I basically just only changed direction on balls here, and then I could get it to my opponent's backhand, cut out all these errors, and was still able to sort of play my game, but play like smart, aggressive tennis. So I could work the ball to my opponent's backhand. And then same deal over here is I've still got the imaginary line. And so if my opponent hits the ball and it crosses that line, even though it's my forehand, my stronger shot, because I'm really limited now with my opponent's racket, I would just send this ball back cross court. Now, one important caveat here is this is a super effective play against an aggressive baseliner, which is who I was playing. So this is the type of person who will get impatient and will start going for stuff. So in this exchange here, I'm going my stronger shot at their backhand, but they still want to play offense. So my opponent started trying to go for balls down the line, but hitting a backhand down the line aggressively is hard. So they were missing some shots into the net. They were missing some shots wide, missing some shots long. Did they hit the occasional winner down the line? Sure, but way more errors than winners. So I started to come back without having to take a ton of risk. And long story short, even though I was playing arguably worse, I was playing way smarter from a strategic standpoint. So I ended up coming back and winning. It was like the weirdest handshake ever because I was like, hey man, nice match. Also, here you go. So that was a completely true story. And the play home base is page 28 of the singles playbook. And sort of the point of that story is if you have the right play based on the type of opponent you're playing, you can win that match, even if they're technically a better player than you in terms of like prettier strokes, let's say, or you're just not playing well. So home base works great against an aggressive baseliner, probably less effective against a counterpuncher. But the good news with the singles playbook is we've organized it by the type of opponent you're playing: pusher, counterpuncher, aggressive baseliner, serve and volleyer, Dr. Feelgood, that's like a junk bowler, all court player, and the southpaw, that's the lefty like me. So we just show you the plays that are most effective based on the type of opponent you are playing. So if you are interested in picking up a copy, just click the link in the description.